So the Gemara in Tainis Dav says that there's three people that asked Shalok Ohegin. Three people asked a request which was not a proper request. One of them is, the first one is Eliezer. Why was Eliezer Shalok Ohegin? So it says the Gemara, what happened with Eliezer? He said, Eliezer comes to find a Shidduch for Yitzchak. And he says, if the girl I find, I'll tell her to give me the water. Whoever gives the water should pass my test. She'll be the wife for Yitzchak. Says the Gemara, maybe she won't be the right person. Maybe she's a chigeres asuma. She'll be missing a leg. She'll be blind. So how can you come and say such a thing? That's what the Gemara says. Teres already asks, what do you mean? What's the problem? He's going to check her. He's going to check if she's a chigeres asuma. Before he gives it to her. So Teres wants to say that maybe he's not going to see it so clear. She's going to have a wooden leg. He's not going to know if he has a real leg or not. So on the first, you want to say over here, but at the end of the day, he asked Shalok Ohegin. Could be he's going to change his mind. But the request was Shalok Ohegin. Because he had to be more clear. So the obvious question is, Mashra from this Gemara. When a person gets married, he's looking for a shidduch. You have to say what you want. You can't just take a random girl. Who knows? You're saying this girl, this Nahara coming out, maybe she is missing a leg, maybe she's blind. You have to be very clear. You have to know what you're looking for. But we have another Gemara. The Gemara in Moed Katan, also based on this week's Parsha, the Gemara in Moed Katan Afyutches says that there's three sources, says the Gemara, that Akash Baruch Hu is mezavik basically zivukim, right? Omar Rav Mishum Abruin Bar Tzibuli min HaTorah min HaNevi'im min HaKsuvim me Hashem ish al ish. Akash Baruch Hu does ish al ish. Min HaTorah dichtiv. What's the pasuk of the Torah? Vayam Lovan uBesul vayoyru me Hashem yotza dover. Happened from Hashem. And then he brings the pasuk in Nevi'im, pasuk in Ksuvim. Hashem did it. So the first you ask, what do you mean? Everything Hashem does it. What's special about the case here? Well, I want to tell you that Shiduchim, you should know, Akash Baruch Hu is doing ish al ish. Akash Baruch Hu is doing everything in the world. So it's known in David Biskarov, it really is written before. Many of them before should bring it. They say, yeah, it's unique by ish al ish. Why is it unique by ish al ish? Because when you get to a marriage, when you get to a shidduch, so then you see more clearly the Hashgacha Pratis. You see more clearly Akash Baruch Hu is involved. More clearly. Usually when Akash Baruch Hu does things, he does it, but he does it b'seiser. He does it hidden, in a hidden way. You come to Shiduchim, Akash Baruch Hu is doing it. That's what many of the first should bring. Then you have a Loshen of the Vilna Gaon. We bring it over here, the Vilna Gaon, which is printed in the Yorelor, which is the Likut of the Gaon on the Zohar. And it says over there, he brings this pasuk, he brings this Gemara, and he says, we're talking about Zivuk Shubin and Bais. Sheshav, listen to the Lashon. Sheshav hu esek bnei Adam b'inyan Zivuk. Being busy with Shiduchim, it's a waste of time. Sha'koil hu me'is Hashem. Talk of him Hashem. That Lashon HaGoyin is. They should not be Hishtadlus with Shiduchim. It's all coming from Hashem. That's what the Gemara is telling you. You should know that usually yes, Akash Baruch Hu does everything, but you have to do your part. But Shiduchim you shouldn't. And this is really a lotion of the Mishnah, right? So maybe Meseches Kalo Rabosi. It says, "B'chol yoyim v'yoyim karoz yoytzev v'yoyim rabita shaploini neploini ishta shaploini neploini mamoyin shaploini neploini." And then it says. In other words, it's a kazav, it's a hevel that a person thinks he's going to do things. Because Baruch is taking care of it. That's what it says. And that's what brings many of the first from the Medrash, that they learned that way. For each of the Midrashim, the Medrash that we mentioned, the Medrash, the other Midrashim, said that you really, when you come to Shiduchim, has to be, your Hishtadlus is not really doing much. That's what it says. Because Akash Baruch Hu is doing it. That's Hashem Yotzadov. Same this expression. Hashem Yotzadov. It's coming from Akash Baruch Hu. That's what the Gemara is learning. So l'chora, it seems to be a stira. It seems to be a contradiction. Why? Because the Gemara in Tiny says Eliezer Shal Shalak Eigen. It should be more specific. Should be what type of girl he's looking for. But when you talk about the Gemara and when it's Qatar and says Hashem is doing, you don't have to do anything. So how do we reconcile these two things together? How do you put these two things together? There's many other Mekoiris, the liquid over here, we mentioned the Biskrov, but maybe just to mention that many of the later Shul Zalman and others say that when they're going in to say Hishtadlus, means they have to do zero Hishtadlus. The person sits at home, locks the door, you won't find a Shidduch. But it means too that you have to do less Hishtadlus than usual. Usually you try your best, you're doing a little bit more. You have to do a minimal Hishtadlus, not too much. But the rest will be the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, how do you understand that? How that works with the Gemara in Titus? But the answer is, and I saw, the little Weintraub says it, and also, Rabbi Baruch Finkel, he used to speak a lot of Parsha Chayesor and Shiduchim. It was known his shir on Shiduchim. So he also said the same concept. And I just want to be mechazik and male what they're speaking about and what they're saying. We have a Gemara in Bo Basra. We're going in Bo Metzia. Bo Metzia Dafayin Vov says that a person, or speaks about somebody who davened, he gave a sharecropper, someone who works in his field, to plant the field, and he told me you have to plant wheat. And he goes and plants barley. And there was a drought and nothing grew. So comes the owner of the field to the sharecropper and says, "What do you mean? You planted barley." He says, "What do you mean?" And nothing grew. So you don't understand. I davened to Hashem for wheat. I think my field would be miskabel. I didn't daven for barley, I davened for wheat. So if you would listen to me and you would plant wheat, you would be okay. But because you decided on your own to plant barley, I did not daven for barley, I davened only for wheat. So therefore it feels not miskabel. The more learns from the pasuk, "V'tigzer oimer v'yokim loch." Tigzer yokim loch. The gzera you say, that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu is mekayem. Whatever you daven for, whatever you're specific about, that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu follows. And the Mefarshim should bring this idea, this concept, and that's why it says that the Meshech Chochmah says that's why Vayishma Kanani Melech Arod. What do? The Kanani got dressed to a different nation. Why? Because, says the Meshech Chochmah, they knew this concept. They knew that Am Yisrael will say, "Oh, there's a different nation coming. They're going to daven to Hashem. Please save us from that nation." They're the Amaleki. They're getting dressed to Kanani. Hashem saves us from the Kanani. We weren't Kanani. We're Amaleki. Kadosh Baruch Hu just answers what you specifically say in your tefillah. That's what we brought. That's what it says. It says, and really, it's a meferish chazal on Sefer HaZohar. When it says by Yaakov Avinu that he was davening about Esau, it says that Tzileni na miad ochi miad Esau. Zog chazal. He says, "Mikan man detzali tzlois." Someone who davens, tebai lefarsho milui kedei kayos. He has to be very clear in his words. Tzileni no, save me. V'itemo. What do you mean? I saved you from love. Miad ochi, for my brother. Maybe you'll tell me there's other people that call brothers. Miad Esau. I have to be very clear. Kadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to save me, please, from my brother from Esau. In tefillah, you have to be very clear. So Zok Yisrael Weintraub, Zok Rabbi Baruch, that this is the answer basically in the two Gemaras. The Gemara in Tiny speaks about tefillah. Eliezer, when Eliezer's coming, he's down to Hashem. Hashem, Hanairo is going to come and she's going to bring the cat. She's down to Hashem. You're down to Hashem, you have to be very specific. You have to be mi'arich in tefillah. You have to say what you want. What the Gemara in Moed Katan speaks about other Hishtadlus. Calling people, Shatchanim, not tefillah. That you don't do. The way Solomon we say it, he says that it says in the pasuk, Al Zoris Yispal Kol Chasid Lecha Lez Matzoi. So the Gemara learns in Brachas, Leis Matzoi Ze Yisho. So it says Solomon, that's your Hishtadlus. Your Hishtadlus is davening. That's what he says, you have to daven. And that's what we saw Matthew explain also. That's what he said, that Eliezer was doing the tefillah. Because really, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing the whole thing. What is going to give you the siyata d'shmaya to have it is tefillah. So it comes out, to reconcile these two Gemaras, what we learn is that the what the Gemara Koden tells us, that the Hishtadlus, and when we come to Shiduchim, the way the Vilna Gaon learns it, the way it's mashur for Chazal and the Midrashim, Hishtadlus, you don't do Hishtadlus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it for you. But there's one thing you have to do, and then you are required to do it, and that's tefillah. And by tefillah, you have to be very specific. And this I heard from my Rebbe Yisrael Septimus. He explained, the pshat is, by tefillah, as we know, halachically, you have a concept, Tefillah is oimed lifnei HaMelech. You have to be standing in front of the king. That's what tefillah is addressed. When you're not davening, that's when you're learning, you're not standing in front of the king. Nafkamina, we know that Rishon Bar Yochai and his son, they were in the cave. The Gemara tells us that when they were learning Torah, they were undressed. They just covered themselves in sand. They daven, they put on the clothes. Why? Because when they daven Torah, lifnei HaMelech, you're standing in front of the king. When you're not davening, it's a different type of relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you stand in front of the king, you have to be specific. You have to act. It's Ginuni Malchus. How do you speak to a king? How do you request something? You talk to Baruch Hu, you say what I want. You don't mumble something. If a person comes in front of someone chashuv and needs to come and request, he's very specific, very clear. He knows what he's going to say. That's why idea Chasidim Yishayim Shem Shachat Fiyat Filo. You get up. You have to know. You have to be davening for the king. Be'im Be'ir Be'estes. You have to be. That's how you daven. When you're not davening, you're doing your hoilich yelich in life. Then it's already a different malach. So in general in the world, the Kodesh Baruch Hu is manigid legabi Shiduchim. But by tefillah, even for melech, that person has to do all the Hishtadlus. And the Hishtadlus is, you have to daven. So is there requirement to do Hishtadlus and Shiduchim? The answer is, in general, no, except for tefillah. Davening, one is required very much to do the maximum Hishtadlus, which means to daven in Hashem with all his heart, and to be very specific in his davening. Let's say there.